What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 8 NFL Studs and Duds show. Before we hop into the weekly recap, I want to quickly remind you guys, please do hit that like button down below. If you enjoy, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any uploads. If you're new to this series, real quick, what this is all about, this is a comprehensive recap of all the players you need to know about from the week before. Not beating the same old headlines into the dirt, like talking about Patrick Mahomes' knee or Lamar Jackson's running ability all day, all night, like ESPN and NFL Network. We're simply going through all the players whose stock is rising, whose stock is falling from last week's film. While we do this, you will be seeing my own custom Madden ratings from this week's custom roster update. That said, if you couldn't care less about Madden, don't worry, these ratings are simply a reflection of how I perceive each player in real life. So if you don't care about Madden, it doesn't matter. We're just talking football. Before we get started, again, guys, please do hit that like button. Also, consider using promo code FranchiseGuy on SeatGeek, where you're going to save $20 for the best prices, for the best tickets, and you get a good interface there. I love SeatGeek. I've started buying all my tickets there, so go check that out. Also, if you enjoy my custom roster and it adds to your Madden experience, please do consider leaving a donation on PayPal or check out my Patreon in the description below. All right, let's hop into it. We're going to start with the stars of the week. We actually have one star this week, and it's none other than superstar pass rusher rookie Nick Bosa, who has taken the league by storm. He is leading the charge on a undefeated 49ers team. He has been every bit as good as advertised and some. He's possibly better than his brother Joey, who's also having a really good season. But I mean, my goodness, Nick Bosa does everything. He has a refined finesse pass rushing skill set. He explodes off the ball. He's got power. We even saw him intercept a screen pass this week. He is a do-it-all defensive end. And my goodness, he's probably the defensive player of the year right now as a rookie. I don't know when the last time that happened was. Did J.J. Watt do it? I can't remember. The duds of the week, we actually have two, again, rookies. So rookies leading the charge for the stars and the duds this week. Jerry Tillery of the LA Chargers. And actually both of these duds of the week, it's going to be a slight pat on my own back. Two guys that I thought were pretty big reaches in the first round, guys that I personally would not have taken them where they went. Jerry Tillery was one of them. I understood that this team needed some pretty big help on the interior after what the Patriots did to them in the playoffs last year, the Chargers, that is. But it's just not working out for Jerry Tillery. He was raw coming out, which you don't like to see from a senior who didn't really have a high production at Notre Dame. You know, I saw him as a day 2 pick, a high upside guy, but they take him with a lot of expectations. And the problem with that is they're playing him more than he probably should. He just, isn't able to hold his own. He's not really getting after the passer that much either. He can't get off blocks. He's really not doing anything for this Chargers team, and only now are they getting other guys who we will talk about later in this video to kind of step up on that interior position, but it definitely hurt them early on. I expect he's going to continue to lose playing time as they push him back into more of a developmental rotational roles instead of a full-time starter. And the other guy is Clelin Ferrell, who most people criticized at number 4. I had a first to a second round grade on him. I see Ferrell as a guy who can be your number 2 pass rusher, was pretty refined coming out, but didn't really have the explosion you look for, especially for a guy as a top 5 pick. And it's no secret this Raiders pass defense and run defense, but mostly their pass defense, is a joke. A big part of that is they haven't been able to get after the quarterback. They let Khalil Mack go a year ago. They have not been able to find that number 1 guy, let alone a number 2 guy. And Clelin Ferrell barely getting after the quarterback, not shedding blocks either, and helping in the run game. So pretty big bust to this point. Both these guys, that said, Tillery and Ferrell, they can still turn it around, but based on where these guys were drafted, I think duds of the week at this point, fitting that it's halfway through the year, is the way it's going to go. So then we are going to bring back the Dave Gettleman Award. What is the Dave Gettleman Award? This is basically a positional value mock at the general manager of the New York Giants, who just infamously drafted a running back second overall in a really good quarterback class, and then traded away Odell Beckham effectively for a nose tackle, and we spent a lot of time making fun of Dave Gettleman. So this award is poking fun at Dave Gettleman, who this week, by the way, traded a 3rd and 5th round pick for another defensive tackle that's going to bury one of his already talented defensive tackles into a rotation. But we celebrate a smart team and a player that was picked up on the cheap that really obliterated the run that week, because defensive tackle, specifically of the run defending variety, are very deep in the NFL. And this week it's Sylvester Williams of the LA Chargers, the aforementioned LA Chargers. They pick up Williams off the block. He's 30 years old. He's a vetted player here. Really shut down the run. 30 snaps this week on that cheap, street free agent contract. Effectively giving you what you get in drafting a guy like Dexter Lawrence with the 17th overall pick. So Sylvester Williams, congrats this week on the Dave Gettleman Award. All right, let's hop into the games. We got less movement this week than normal. Not to say there's not a healthy chunk of movement, but I think we are starting to learn more and more about these teams, and the guys that really were set for big breakouts have already set that course in motion. That said, there's still plenty of movement to go through. So the Thursday night game, the Washington Redskins at the Minnesota Vikings. It's time to move Dwayne Haskins down. It's not necessarily... Well, let's put it frankly. It is that he's not playing very well. He hasn't been able to beat out the collection of Case Keenum and Colt McCoy or whatever. At some point you expect them to expect him to take the bull by horns. Reports are he hasn't learned the playbook yet. It's just not looking great for Dwayne Haskins. I was a believer in him coming out, and I think he can still figure things out here in Washington as they figure things out as a team together, but not off to the best start. It was just time to lower him after having pretty high expectations from me out of the draft. And then we got a rotational tight end here, Hale Hentges, plus 263 to 65, getting involved as a blocker, catching some balls as well. And then wide receiver breakout star Terry McLaurin out of Ohio State. He's going to go up plus 173 to a 74. Every player is their own kind of style, but this does kind of remind me a lot of Keenan Allen. Really refined route runner. Good catch and traffic ability. Wouldn't say he's going to be elite in that regard, just like Keenan Allen, but that's kind of a comparison I have for him, although his top end speed is much higher. So like I said, a little different, but his emergence as that mid-round pick, very similar to me to what Keenan Allen did early in his career. On the Viking side of the ball, Riley Reiff, he is hot. They're paying him a lot of money, and he has struggled as a pass blocker here in Minnesota. Yeah, I wouldn't say he's struggled, but he hasn't really lived up to that payment, as do a lot of free agent linemen. It's just a position that you kind of got to overpay. But he's playing at an elite level this season. He's been a big part of the Vikings' success over the last month, where they have been pass blocking a lot better. So credit Riley Reiff there. And then a running back, Alexander Madison, rookie out of Boise State, 3rd round pick. He just, I think I say this every time he goes up. He's gone up a few times this year. He just passes the eye test as a smart player. He actually reminds me a lot of divisional counterpart Jamal Williams. Maybe not the most explosive guy, but a smart, heady player, going to take care of the football, can catch the ball to the backfield, play with some physicality. I like him as a player. I like what we're seeing there. And then Xavier Rhodes is going to drop this week, 81 to an 80. Just not having a good year. I have basically stood by him being an overrated player since I created this channel in 2016. Nothing is changing there, but it's more accepted at this point that he's fine. He can play well in certain matchups. If he gets a less quick wide receiver to follow around like an Alshon Jeffrey, Mike Evans, he can really do well. He actually plays well against Julio Jones as well, because he can match that size and speed a little bit, but his technique isn't the best. He's grabby, and he's going to struggle a little more with a guy like Terry McLaurin, who is more of a crafty route runner. So Rhodes is going to drop down 81 to an 80. Now we've got Philly at Buffalo. Big upset here. Philly getting a bounce back win here. So Zach Ertz is actually going to come down. The rest of the guys here are going to go up for Philadelphia. But Zach Ertz really emerged as a superstar last year, just a reception machine. Well, he's not getting open at the same rate, and he's not catching the ball at the same rate. So it's just time to come down. We know he doesn't really block as a tight end. That's why his rating is a little lower than a lot of Eagles fans like to see. Madden takes in the blocking into consideration there. But, Ertz still a good player, but not having the same season. But the other tight end, Dallas Goedert, is the much more well-rounded traditional tight end here, and I really like Dallas Goedert. I thought this was an excellent fit when they took him, and he's only continued to get better here. Really kind of a baby Gronk type of tight end. Just, kind of looks like him on the field, blocks pretty similarly. Gronk was an excellent blocker, but, coming out of the Dakotas, Goddard has really developed nicely there. And then Miles Sanders, he only played 12 snaps in this game, 9 snaps. They got to get him on the field more. I mean, he was a big reason this team won the game, and he was only on the field for 20% of the snaps. Rookie running back out of Penn State. I mean, my goodness, he showed some explosiveness that even I didn't know he had. I loved Miles Sanders coming out. But yeah, he's got to get on the field more. He's showing that he can be potentially this team's best weapon in just, the run game and the pass game. Not that Jordan Howard's been bad as a runner, but split it up a little bit. Let Miles Sanders create those big plays for this offense. And then on the defensive side of the ball, TJ Edwards plus 360 to a 63. Undrafted rookie out of Wisconsin, was a good player there. Probably a guy that frankly should have been a 6th or 7th round pick. He just does kind of have everything you look for. He is technically undersized at 6 foot 230, but in 2019 that's not really undersized. He is, again, another guy that's not getting a full workload at linebacker, but he has definitely passed the eye test when he's been out there kind of flying around when he's getting his opportunities. And then defensive end Vinny Curry built a good career here in Philadelphia, got a massive contract in Tampa Bay, and was an absolute flop there. They actually cut him after 1 year. He's back in Philadelphia doing a little bit more in a better situation here where they know how to use his skill set. So he's going to go up 73 to a 74. No movement for the Buffalo Bills. This really was not a surprising loss for them. Their weaknesses on offense are already reflected in my ratings. And it was just a good day of offense for Philly. I'm not going to really knock down Buffalo's defense too much for one game. They're still a really good defense. Denver at Indianapolis. Courtland Sutton is impressing me despite being surrounded by pretty hot garbage here. He was my number 1 wide receiver in last year's class, and he's getting open. He's making contested catches. His run after catch ability is pretty nice. So I like what we're seeing from Courtland Sutton. Hopefully they can figure out the quarterback situation and not kind of ruin his career. My pro count for him coming out was Allen Robinson, and we've seen what quarterback play has done to Allen Robinson's career. So hopefully the same doesn't happen to Courtland Sutton. Tight end Andrew Beck, he's getting involved as a blocker, plus 1, 65 to a 66, and as a receiver, but rotating in there at tight end. Wide receiver Fred Brown, he played this week, plus 2, 62 to a 64. Not sure if there's anything there. We'll find out. Linebacker Alex Johnson, plus 1, 68 to a 69. 4th week in a row, he is going up. We've hit on him a lot. I won't continue to talk about him, but my comparison for him is Brandon Marshall, who broke out as an undrafted free agent for the Denver Broncos years ago. He's got that same big body. He's a really good run defender. I did see some weaknesses in coverage. He is just a little stiff. He's got that same kind of criticism we've had of bigger bodied linebackers. It's not that you can't cover at that size, but I do think there are some things you can exploit in his game, but he can be a nice number 2 linebacker for this team for years to come, I think. He can be a really nice player. And then Draymond Jones, he's going up. He was one of my favorite players in last year's class. A guy that definitely needed to be a part of a rotation early on in his career, which is what Denver is doing with him. He's almost exclusively a kind of 3 or 4 technique interior pass rusher on nickel packages, which is exactly what I thought he needed to do as a rookie, similar to Jerry Tillery, even though the Chargers are using him as a full-time starter. And we're seeing Draymond Jones in this role start to develop some confidence, learn some skill sets here. It's a good defensive line there if you take those edge rush outside linebackers into consideration, of course. So Draymond Jones, high upside guy who can continue to develop into a nice player here, plus 169 to a 70. And then on the edge, Malik Reed, he continues to go up. He's the guy that's stepped in for superstar edge player Bradley Chubb. And Malik Reed's actually outproduced him this year again. I keep saying this, he's not a better player than Bradley Chubb, but that defense has stepped up since he's gotten hurt. And a lot of that is just Malik Reed has shown some nice versatility. He can get after the quarterback. He's defending the run much better than you would expect for a guy that's a kind of a undersized tweener type of edge guy. He's like 6'2", 235. That's definitely undersized, but he uses his agility and acceleration really well to kind of bend around the edge, drop into coverage, do some nice things. And I think Vic Fangio's using him a lot like they used Leonard Floyd in Chicago, as a guy with similar skill sets. And then on the Indianapolis side of the ball, not a very impressive week for Indianapolis. The defense did play well. I was impressed with Marlon Mack yet again. His season reminds me a lot of what happened with Le'Veon Bell from year 1 to year 2. Le'Veon Bell struggled a lot as a rookie, and then it all kind of clicked for him in his second year. I was not a big Marlon Mack guy heading into the year, but he looks like a different type of player. He's just a more patient runner. We knew he had good hands out of the backfield, but he just looks explosive. He's running guys over. He's occasionally making guys miss. So I like what we're seeing from Marlon Mack. He's been a big part of the Colts' success over there in Indianapolis. Rookie Rock Ya-Sin is struggling there on the outside, minus 171 to a 70. But I will say that Marvell Tell, the other rookie corner there, he stepped in, played about half of this game, and he actually played pretty well. So do we see a changing of the guard there and see them actually playing that mid-round pick instead of Rock Ya-Sin, who was a top 35 pick? Next up, we've got the New York Jets at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Really thought about lowering Sam Darnold. He was not great in this game. We're going to give him one more week, but he is looking like he's going to go down again pretty soon. As for the rest of these Jets players, Demaryius Thomas actually kicking it up a notch there with the Jets. He's playing well, so he's going to go up 173 to a 74, showing a little bit of juice left in the tank, former superstar wide receiver. And then Folorunso Fadukasi, this guy is really breaking out this year as that run-stuffing nose tackle. I mean, talk about a guy that would have been an excellent candidate for the Dave Gettleman Award, not just this week, but in weeks past. And extremely ironically, several weeks ago, I mentioned that his emergence and the fact that he is outplaying Leonard Williams as a 6th-round pick would make Leonard Williams a prime trade candidate because this guy's playing so well. Well, sure enough, who's willing to overpay for a defensive lineman that's playing like a 6th-round pick? Dave Gettleman. So Leonard Williams, who has played better. I liked Leonard Williams, but you can get a guy like that in Folorunso Fadukasi, who this team took in the mid-rounds. So plus 269 to a 71, really defending the run really well. And then edge just runs here, a bunch of edge guys changing here for the Jets. Jordan Jenkins going up. He's kind of coming back into the rotation here. Kyle Phillips continues to just be a lockdown run defender on the edge. He's kind of oversized. When you take those oversized guys and put them on the edge, it's pretty typical of them to defend the run well. Then you've got these kind of retread, high-investment picks that this team is just throwing darts at, and I really like what they're doing there. You got Terrell Basham, you got Jordan Willis. There's someone else there that I can't remember. I think it was from the Rams, his long name, but they're all kind of making a name for themselves here for the Jets, and I like doing that because this team's edge position is one of the worst in the league. So to get guys like Basham, Jordan Willis, day 2 picks with high upside to get in here, rotate, show off their skill set, and maybe be a part of this team in the future, I like what they're doing there. I don't think this team's going to miss Leonard Williams all that much. And then, just because they got a lot of rotational depth. And then for the Jaguars, Gardner Minshew really impressing. This might have been the game that kind of put his stamp down as the starter for this team when Nick Foles comes back. He's got about 3 more weeks to kind of play like this, but if he continues to play like this, you can't go back to Nick Foles, and he's going to have a good opportunity to maintain that starting job. And then Trey Herndon, the slot corner, has stepped in here due to necessity. I'm not going to say he's been amazing, but he's getting those reps, not being miserable, so he's going to go up 62 to a 64. Now we've got the Bengals at the LA Rams. Billy Price, one of the biggest busts in the last 3 or 4 years. He was miserable at center as a rookie. He gets benched in the preseason for, I can't even remember the name of their center off the top of my head. Not a particularly good player, but he gets benched due to injury and other lack of good play. They are forced to play Billy Price at left guard, and he comes out and, granted, against Aaron Donald, but puts up one of the worst pass blocking grades for a full game that PFF has ever recorded, and he has embarrassed himself in other opportunities this week. It's not looking like Billy Price can really play. Free safety Jesse Bates, I really like this player, but we've talked a lot about how this team has a lot of talented players that just aren't playing up to that potential. Jesse Bates is one of them. I think when things do rebuild here, I think we see him return to being a really quality free safety, a plus starter, honestly, but just not showing it this year. And then on the edge, Sam Hubbard. The one bright spot for this Bengals team has been the defensive line, the depth they have there, the guys they're rotating around. Sam Hubbard is a really well-balanced player. 3rd round pick. I can't remember if he was a rookie last year or the year before, but a good player out of Ohio State who's just a really solid kind of number 2, number 3 edge guy. For the Rams, Cooper Kupp continues to dominate, 200-plus yards this week. Granted, one of them, the Bengals corner, literally tripped over himself, or maybe it was the safety. I think it was Kirkpatrick. I could be wrong about that. But Cooper Kupp looking really explosive. I mean, just a steady target for this offense. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Dante Fowler for the 2nd week in a row, he is going up. He's really breaking out. He's a big sign that this defense can take a next step. You got Donald. You got a potential number 1 edge guy here in Dante Fowler. Agbanya Okoronkwo is playing better here as well. Clay Matthews has existed. You've also got Samson Ebukam, so you got a good rotation there. But to have Fowler playing more like a number 1 edge guy, and then you got the dominant corner in there now in Jalen Ramsey, you've got a good formula there to have a really solid defense to complement an offense that is still really explosive, but maybe not as good as it was last year. So then you also got Marquis Christian going up as a rotational safety. And then also you got to talk about Troy Hill. And I might be late to the party here, and I thought about raising him even more. I frankly was kind of not noticing how well Troy Hill has played this year. He's got to be a big reason they were comfortable trading Marcus Peters away. He's definitely playing better than Marcus Peters has played this season, if you take out that one game he played for the Ravens. But yeah, he's definitely a candidate to continue to go up. Kind of a veteran there out of Oregon, but having his best year of his career, I would say. So the Rams stock is up on the defensive side of the ball. Offense looked okay. I still got worries about that offensive line. Giants at the Detroit Lions. Daniel Jones going to go up despite showing that he still has fumbleitis. I think it's going to limit his ceiling to something like a Kirk Cousins. It's just a trait that I don't know if quarterbacks pick up, and that's that pocket presence, the ability to sense pressure, take care of the football inside the pocket. He leads the NFL in turnovers, and he missed the first 4 games of the season, so that's not ideal, but he's showing things that were not on my scouting report of him coming out. Stronger arm, more accurate downfield, a little more of an anticipatory passer, so he's still showing some positive signs, and he's going to continue to go up, even if I think that ceiling might be limited to something closer to a Kirk Cousins. And then on the Detroit Lions side of the ball, we got Danny Amendola really playing awesome here. Happy for him, genuinely happy. This guy's had how many injuries? He just gets beat up over the middle consistently over his career, but he keeps coming back. He's been a big target for this Lions offense, so he's going to go up +2, 72 to a 74. It's time to raise Matthew Stafford, who's having probably the best year of his career. He's looked sharp, accurate, showing off the physical traits, of course, but really kind of carrying this team to competence right now, in my opinion, because the defense has not been as good as they would have hoped here. And then Marvin Hall, this guy, I don't know how sustainable this is, but he seems to make a huge play every week. +2, 65 to a 67. He's averaging 40 yards per completion right now. Just kind of that one-play deep threat, but hey, that's worth something in this league. And then some notes on the defensive line. No movement this week, but Deshaun Hand is back, and he was awesome. He was one of the top 5 breakout superstars in last year's Studs and Duds. So can he come back now and kind of get into that elite echelon of interior defensive linemen? Because he really played like it last year. If he answers it in a second season after coming back from injury, with a team that's proved that the surrounding talent here is just kind of that would be a big sign that he's one of the premier defensive linemen in this league. And then Trey Flowers benefited from Hand being back. Trey Flowers played much better this week. Someone that's gone down in recent weeks, but he could be going up. The huge free agent signing for the Lions on the edge of the defense. Okay, Arizona at New Orleans, not a whole lot of movement in this one. J.R. Sweezy is going to go up +2, 65 to a 67. He's a journeyman veteran type, but he's been a good fit here. Arizona really does a good job of kind of hiding some deficiencies on that offensive line that is not the best, but they get rid of the ball so quick, and Kyler is so elusive and senses pressure so well that he's making this offensive line look better. So J.R. Sweezy benefiting from that. Not to say he hasn't played great. He has. He had some good days back in Seattle. And then Taysom Hill +0, but he's a legitimate playmaker for this team. Obviously at quarterback, when I go into Madden and raise his route running and blocking and catching stuff, that's not going to go up. But if you did move him to tight end or wide receiver, it would go up. They seem adamant that he is a quarterback and not a tight end, so be it. He did throw a pass in this game. An interesting player, but he's actually been a legitimate weapon. And I've been critical of kind of what they do with him because I'm not a big fan of taking Drew Brees off the field. But he continues to develop and is actually a really solid weapon for this team that does need help other than Michael Thomas there. And then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I mean, this just warms my heart. Seeing him play and do exactly what he did in college. And, he's playing some strong safety, playing a lot more nickel corner, which is where I literally had him in my draft board as a nickel cornerback. He was listed by most people as a safety, and I didn't see that. I was like, just put him in the nickel. He's got good coverage skills. I don't think he's going to be some elite outside corner. I don't think he's going to be a really good free safety. And I actually think I have a tweet from a while back that I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is better than Minkah Fitzpatrick. Or is at least what we want Minkah Fitzpatrick to be. And Minkah's played a lot better at free safety now after kind of playing this nickel corner position for most of his college and NFL career. So that's a different conversation now at this point. But what I'm getting at is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson flies to the football, secure tackler. He's got instincts. Really good cover guy. I think the Saints got an absolute steal, one of the biggest steals in the draft. This is how you keep a window alive in New Orleans. When you are pressed against the cap, you take a third-round pick and take a guy that, I had a first-round grade on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I wouldn't be surprised if they did either. So that's how you keep a window alive at a really key position, too, at nickel corner. So Seattle at Atlanta. Again, not a ton of movement here. Marquise Blair, we noted him last week. This team just traded for Quandre Diggs, another safety, potentially nickel corner, out of or from Detroit. So I was curious where Marquise Blair was going to fit into the equation after that trade. Well, he's actually playing some free safety here. I do have a legitimate question for Seahawks fans. Was McDougald, was he benched? Because he only played 14 snaps in this game. Marquise Blair outsnapped him. McDougald was a breakout safety last week. What's going on there? Genuine question for Seahawks fans. I don't know. I just don't follow every team's detail that closely. So let me know in the comments what's going on there. But Marquise Blair showing off some really good pursuit and tackle skills. One of my comps for him coming out was Adrian Amos as that kind of downhill safety. Can hit you in the mouth. Pretty good range, good speed. He's not Earl Thomas, but can kind of do it all as a safety. So I like Marquise Blair showing some nice things there. And then for Atlanta, Matt Ryan +453. Just kidding. Although not really. I mean, you couldn't really tell the difference between Matt Schaub and Matt Ryan in this game. But that said, Matt Schaub plus 453 to a 57. My last note on this game is that DeMonte KZ, who was awesome last year as a total breakout, primarily as a free safety, has not been good this year. He's struggled at nickel corner. He's struggled at free safety, where he was awesome last year. Not ready to lower him yet because I think he's a good player and he's got good range, but he's got to turn it on fast or he's going to go down here. Tampa Bay at Tennessee. Carl Nassib continues to slowly develop at his, fourth, fifth year in the NFL. Really lengthy, awkward outside linebacker, but he gets the job done. He's got kind of everything on a low scale for a pass rusher. He can get under your pads, use that length as a power rusher. He can swim around you, and he plays the run very well as well. So plus 172 to a 73. Jason Pierre-Paul was back this week. Didn't really do much, to few people's surprise. And then on the interior defensive line, Bo Allen, plus 168.69. Minnetonka High School represent. He's kind of making a comeback here. They're paying him a decent amount of money here to play nose tackle, and he's getting in there 15, 20 snaps a game, helping this team in run defense. And then for Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill's second week in a row, 67 to a 68. This team is more comfortable with him. He's just playing more confident football than Marcus Mariota. I don't know exactly the reason. And, heading into the year, I would have told you that Marcus Mariota is a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill, and I might still tell you that he is. I'm not the biggest Mariota guy, and I've been heavily critical of him and said that Tennessee needs to move on from Mariota. I think what it is just there was so much pressure on Mariota that he kind of lost his confidence, and then Ryan Tannehill comes in here with nothing to lose. He can play a little more aggressive. I think it's benefiting him, to say the least. So 67 to a 68. Tight end Jonnu Smith has really impressed me. Still doesn't really block, but again, they love this undersized tight end prototype. It's the same with another guy going up here in Anthony Firkser. 6'3", 6'2" guys that are really athletic. Jonnu Smith, when he has the ball in his hands, look out. That's all I'm going to say on him. I mean, my goodness, he accelerates, he'll stiff arm you, he'll truck you. And, he's kind of like Gerald Everett for the Rams. Like, he's just kind of solid. Everett has developed better as a blocker, but I like what they're seeing in Jonnu Smith. I think there's a good chance that he could be the replacement at tight end 1 with Delaney Walker kind of getting phased out here. And then wide receiver Tajay Sharp. I don't fully understand how he's getting on the field when you've got A.J. Brown, you got Corey Davis, you've got Adam Humphries here, but Tajay Sharp is a guy that just won't go away here. Kind of that crafty intermediate route runner with pretty solid hands. He's kind of an awkward, lengthy guy. He's kind of like a better version of Geronimo Allison for the Packers. But plus 168 to a 69. We mentioned Anthony Firkser. He's getting involved in the pass game and as a blocker. And then Harold Landry heating up. I loved me some Harold Landry in last year's class. Baby Von Miller, if you will. He's got that elite bend as the edge rusher. He is a big part of Tennessee's defense playing better lately. So he's going to go up plus 174 to 75. Now we've got the Chargers at the Chicago Bears. A reversal here for Casey Hayward, who's had a pretty quiet season, but clearly can still ball out with that, really good zone understanding. He had a one pick and then an almost pick in this game, so he's just going to bounce back. Sylvester Williams, we talked about him, the Dave Gettleman Award winner for the week, and then also on the interior defensive line, Damon Square, plus 166 to a 67, just part of the rotation. They basically have to find a way to get Jerry Tillery off the field and just focus on developing him because it's been so bad there on the inside. And then for the Bears, benefiting from this poor interior defensive lineman, David Montgomery, again, a flippy-floppy player because we lowered him a bunch last week because he's been so quiet. But I should have known better when they're playing the Chargers, who are one of the worst run defenses in the league. So he capitalized on that. I think he had over 100 yards this week, but he's really good at making guys miss, running guys over. I can't believe they didn't give him the ball to try and get them some tough yards, to get them better field position. That one's on Matt Nagy, who I've defended, but that was pretty inexcusable. I mean, there's few backs in this league, even as a rookie, that I would trust to just get me a couple yards and don't fumble the ball. So a little backtracking there, David Montgomery going back up plus 1. Still hasn't had as good of a year as I expected. Then we got Mitchell Trubisky. Oh boy, I'm just kind of speechless at this point. He's lost, he's inaccurate, he's turning the ball over. It's been worst case scenario for Mitchell Trubisky. He's been even worse than I thought, which for those who have followed this channel would have had a hard time saying we're going to sit here at week 9 and say that Trubisky was worse than I was projecting. But sure enough, here he is, 69 to a 67. I was stunned that they didn't make a move for either Mariota or Andy Dalton to try and save this season because, man, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. They don't have a first-round pick. They're up against the cap, and they have quarterback hell here. Tight end Trey Burton has been non-existent. He's going down -2, 76 to a 74. Roquan Smith, again, flippity-doo-dah. He went down a bunch last week and then has his best game of the year flying around the field. I love Roquan coming out. This is the version of him that I thought we would have seen midseason last year, especially with all the talent around him. So hopefully he continues that and can really climb to being a premier linebacker in this league. But he's got to do that more consistently. And then not going down because I do think he can really ball out, but Eddie Jackson continues to struggle at free safety for the Bears. Carolina at San Francisco, going to try to pick up the pace a little bit here. Tons of movement in this game. Kyle Allen's going to come down. He's a backup. That much is very clear. You know, he's not doing what Gardner Minshew has done and kind of made him an interesting prospect for a future quarterback for this team. He did a good job keeping this team alive, but they now need to direct their focus on getting Cam Newton back here because Kyle Allen just clearly needs everything to be perfect to win a game. Let's just leave it at that. And then F.A. Obata, fun story here, international guy, comes in here as a rotational edge guy, and you know he does a little bit of pass rushing. Nothing crazy here, but +1, 66 to a 67. James Bradbury having his best season, +1, 77 to a 78 at corner. And then on the edge as well, Marquise Haynes, just a teeny tiny edge rusher, like 6'2", 235, maybe 240. Now, I will say he got obliterated in the run in this game, but he was, you know, they're not asking him to stop the run. They want him to get after the quarterback. He shown some skill set as that sort of rotational speed rusher, a la Vic Beasley kind of, if you will. And then for the Niners, here we go. Laken Tomlinson has reached his potential, former first-round pick. He's mauling dudes. He's having an excellent season. He is hot for this offensive line. George Kittle, no explanation needed here. He has climbed to the number 1 tight end ranking on my roster, +1, 90 to a 91. A complete player, a burner, physical after the catch. Really good hands. You know, he hasn't made some of the crazy catches that we've seen from like Gronk and Kelsey, but I know it's in there if, you know, it's only a matter of time. So he really is a complete player. He's made one-handed catches in his career. I don't know if that's entirely fair. Right tackle, Daniel Brunskill. How heavy is this guy? Because he's listed at 260. There's no way there's a right tackle kicking ass in the NFL that weighs 260 pounds. He's a converted tight end out of San Diego State. I would love to just know how heavy he is because it kind of drives me crazy not knowing. I bet he's about 285, 290, maybe even more. I don't know. I just want to know. But that said, he's mauling dudes. He's perfect for this play-action heavy scheme as a guy that's really athletic as a former tight end. But, man, he was dominant in the run game. He's been surprisingly good as a pass blocker. I give so much credit to these tackles, Brunskill and Justin School. You know, their 2 all-pro caliber tackles are injured here, and the Niners just keep rolling dudes. And I credit the players. I credit Kyle Shanahan. Daniel Brunskill really kind of becoming an interesting player here. Maybe someone that could be, you know, projected over to left tackle with Joe Staley getting older. But seeing what Kyle Shannon's been able to do with these 2 tackles, definitely encouraging if you're a Niners fan because that is a question mark down the road with Joe Staley getting older. Then we got Tevin Coleman. Looks really explosive. This running back rotation is insane. He's going up +1, 78 to a 79. Richard Sherman, we all know about him. He's having an awesome season. Definitely benefiting from how good this pass rush is. He's still not a guy that I would trust running man-to-man, covering guys for 3-4 seconds, but we know that when he's playing behind a great pass rush, he will press you, he will lock down his third of the field, and he is about as smart as any defensive player in the league. So good year, good fit here for Richard Sherman. Nick Bosa, plus 384 to an 87. We talked about him. Solomon Thomas. We've talked so much about all the players on this defensive line, but we forget that Solomon Thomas was the number 3 pick in the draft, would have been the number 2 pick in the draft if the Bears weren't so sold on Mitch Trubisky, a guy that people thought could be Aaron Donald type of prospect coming out. And, he had a big game this week. If he can continue to play like this, how do you block these guys? And then you got Emmanuel Mosley benefiting from this. I don't know if Akello Witherspoon is hurt or has just been benched for Mosley. Regardless, Mosley has been all over the field. You can't watch a Niners game without hearing about this guy. So he's been great. And then Jimmy Ward playing the kind of Earl Thomas role on this defense. So this Niners defense is really well put together right now. Really impressive what they've done on both sides of the ball. All right, so we've got a few games left here. Oakland at the Houston Texans. Time to move Derek Carr up. He's playing really well. Still kind of a game manager. I think he still leads the league, or is last in the league, depending on how you slice it, in yards per completion. He wants to, for one, run the ball, but also, hit these tight ends, hit the running backs in the receiving game, not take too many chances. Not the best formula when your defense is so bad, but he's showing that he's a solid top 20, 24 quarterback. He's been pretty solid. And then Foster Moreau, another guy that I loved in last year's class, was one of my 5 favorite players for sure. He's kind of doing what he did at LSU. He's not been a focal point of this offense, but he's been a really nice blocker, and then they can use his athleticism off of play action, get him the ball, kind of do some things as a receiver as well. So he's a high upside guy that is kind of buried here behind Darren Waller, who's played like the second best tight end in the NFL right now. But really good tight end package there. And then Zay Jones started here and did some nice things for the Raiders, so we're keeping an eye on him, but I am not going to raise him here. And then at left guard, Richie Incognito. He's been one of the best free agent signings of the entire year, up there with like Shaq Barrett, Zadarius Smith. He's been one of the best linemen in the entire league this year, and that left guard position was a big weakness, and I like to think that he has helped the Colton Miller at left tackle, a first-round pick from last year, come into his own. This is one of the best offensive lines, period, in the NFL. It's been a big part of their offensive success there. Richie Incognito going up 79 to an 80. Another note here as we move to the defensive side of the ball, Trayvon Mullen, a second-round pick out of Clemson. I liked him. My comparison for him coming out was actually Xavier Rhodes as kind of that tall, lengthy press corner. So he gets his first start here after this team traded away Gary and Conley, and he was pretty solid. Just one game, and I do have him rated pretty kindly at a 71, which is good for a rookie, but he showed some nice things. We'll definitely continue to monitor him as we move forward. They would greatly appreciate some help at corner, so maybe they've got it in Trayvon Mullen. We'll see. And then movement on the edge. We already talked about Clelin Ferrell going down, but Max Crosby has actually been a much better edge player for this team. 4th or 5th round pick here. So he's going to go up plus 267 to a 69. I don't know if that's sustainable over these guys' careers. I'm sure Ferrell will have better football ahead of him, but it's just not happening right now. And then for the Texans, it's just going to be veteran Darren Fells. They were pretty predictable in this game, the Texans were. But Darren Fells has found a nice little niche in this offense as a guy that helps with the pass protection. He's huge. He's like 6'7", 270 pounds. But he's a sure-handed guy getting involved in this offense. Now we've got that ugly Browns-Patriots game. Baker Mayfield, again, a guy, like we said with Ferrell, he's going to have better days ahead. But at some point, just stop throwing the ball to the other team, Baker. It's just been a mess here, and he's now going off on the media. He's got a lot of proving to do, and it hasn't been like last year. Back down the stretch of last year, Baker felt like a guy that you felt confident betting on him. He just was kind of a prove you wrong type of guy that was just a solid player, put up points, like elevated the guys around him. He's not doing any of that this year. If anything, he's costing his team games. So I do think there's better football ahead of him, but it's just not happening. Same thing can be said for Odell Beckham. I thought he would be a huge impact in this offense, and he's been a replacement level receiver this year. Just hasn't really brought a whole lot to the table. We know the talent's in there, but they got to unlock some of this stuff on the offensive side of the ball. And a lot of that comes back to Freddie Kitchens as well. Right tackle Chris Hubbard, he had a solid year last year. He's been a mess this year, minus 270 to a 68. You can tell just watching this team that the pass protection is nowhere near what Baker was getting last year, and that's another big reason why this offense has not been as reliable as it was in the second half of last season. And then for the Patriots, Marcus Cannon, their right tackle, he's showing his age. He's 32 years old, is already kind of a mauling type, but you can definitely tell that he's having a harder time in pass protection, not really getting the push that he once did either as a run blocker. So his fall is, I think, only just beginning here. Maybe he turns it around down the stretch, but it's looking pretty unlikely. The offensive line situation here in New England, especially when you compare it to what they had last year, it's going to be a big difference when we get into cold weather football. That was this team's identity last year. They're not going to be able to rely on that this year. So, I mean, Bill is the best coach in sports history at finding counter punches, but that said, they are going to have to find it. And I don't know if Tom Brady can help them do that at 42 years old either. And they've got injuries at wide receiver. So the offense is in trouble, I think. I think we're going to learn a lot about this team against the Ravens, whether they win or lose. Edge, Chase Winovich, plus 170 to a 71. Now he has 6 sacks on the season. They're closer to Vic Beasley types of sacks. He only has 12 pressures on the year, so 50% of his pressures have turned into sacks. That said, I like Chase Winovich a lot. I think he's going to have a really nice career here in New England, and he's moving up. But I'd be pretty surprised if he finished with even 10 sacks, even though we're sitting here with him with 6. I mean, they've gone against some of the worst offensive lines in the league. Nickel cornerback Jonathan Jones going up again. He has just been the epitome of a Bill Belichick defensive back. Sure-handed, surefire tackler, flies to the football, good in coverage, fast. Just love what we're seeing from Jonathan Jones. We'll see if he plays at this high of a level against actual NFL competition. But Browns were the first kind of legitimate offense, if you will, even though they've had a ton of problems. But anyway, plus 174 to 75 for Jonathan Jones. All right, Green Bay at Kansas City, the last game of the week here. Aaron Jones looking like a elite type of receiving threat. It's pretty rare that you see these guys look like that as actual wide receivers. There's a few guys that do it. David Johnson does it, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley. But like he ran a double move on a sluggo. Granted, it was against a linebacker, but if you just look at his footwork, he looks like he'd be the second best wide receiver on this team. Now, that's not really saying anything considering it's a bunch of baloney after Devontae Adams, but regardless, Aaron Jones really impressing with his versatility in all facets of the game. Plus 180 to an 81. Elton Jenkins, a player I really liked. I had a first-round grade on him as a center. They didn't need a center. They have Corey Linsley, but they clearly liked him. They took him in this early second round. Plug him in at left guard after Lane Taylor goes down with an injury, and he had a dominant performance this week. I think this is the beginning of a really nice career here for Elton Jenkins. The Packers don't always get super talented players on the offensive line. It's usually mid-round picks that they develop really well. So it's interesting to see what they can do with a smart, really athletic lineman in Elton Jenkins down the road. Jamal Williams going to go up plus 175 to a 76. And, it's not like he's becoming more elusive or more explosive or even necessarily a better running back. He has basically become this team's version of James White to the Patriots. He's got really sure hands. He's one of the best pass-blocking halfbacks in the league. We saw him with a great catch on the sideline to take the lead late in this game. He is a super smart, competitive player, and at some point that does count for something. I would never want Jamal Williams as my number one running back. He's just not explosive or elusive enough, but definitely a guy that you like to have on your football team as a number 2 guy. And it's nice to have an explosive guy as your number one in Aaron Jones. Then a couple of these lowly wide receivers continue to just kind of make small strides every week. Jake Kumaro +1, Alan Lazard +1. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the defense has struggled. They have found something in Shandon Sullivan, a street free agent that they picked up. He's played some slot corner. He's played some free safety. He's shown a little bit of everything. He's kind of flying around, making big tackles. He's shown some range, especially this week at free safety. Reminds me a little bit of Damata Kazee and his breakout last year. I don't think he's quite as fast, but regardless, a versatile rotational piece in that secondary for this defense is something they need. And then Kenny Clark has actually cooled off a lot. He had a fast start here. He's been an elite interior defensive lineman for the last couple of seasons, but he has not shown that. I know he's battling some injuries, but at some point, if you're playing, you got to play like that. And then just a last note, I literally can't lower Blake Martinez anymore. He's already a 65, but my God, is he awful in coverage. He just looks like he's playing at a different speed than everyone else. And I'm not talking about how Tyreek Hill looks like he's playing at a different speed. He looks like I would if I took an NFL field. Quarterback Matt Moore for the Chiefs. Gonna go up. Good performance this week. It's a quarterback-friendly system. You know, people are going to get all defensive and say, oh, you're saying Mahomes is a system quarterback. Absolutely not. Mahomes is what makes this offense take that next step up. But we did see this be an extremely explosive offense with an Alex Smith. So I'm saying that Matt Moore showed that he could execute some things. He impressed me with his accuracy, his arm strength, his anticipation. A good game for Matt Moore. Sammy Watkins, by the way, like, where are you at? You had a really good week one and then have absolutely disappeared. Not going to lower him this week because he is coming back from injury, but we're definitely keeping an eye on him. Charvarius Ward, +2, 70 to a 72. He's had an awesome season. He's been this team's best defensive back this year outside of maybe Tyrann Mathieu. But really good pickup there for the Chiefs. I think they got him from the Cowboys practice squad, and he has slowly developed, actually rather quickly developed into a good player there, which is definitely a position of need. And then defensive end, Emmanuel Ogbah, +1, 72 to a 73. Not a huge Emmanuel Ogbah guy, but, you know, they're making the most of his skill set. He's definitely got power as a big body defensive end, and they're letting him kind of go to work. And he had a good game this week against Brian Bulaga. So +1, 72 to a 73. Looking like a good trade to get him for Eric Murray. Definitely a position of need as well on the edge. And then Anthony Hitchens, he's got the Blake Martinez syndrome as well. Now, I think he's a little more aggressive. I'd much rather have Anthony Hitchens because he'll at least fly to the football in the run game and make some big tackles in the backfield, which Martinez just kind of lets everything come to him. But Anthony Hitchens, same thing, just really poor agility skills in space and very poor instincts in coverage. Just has been an absolute train wreck of a signing. And they guaranteed him a bunch of money too. If they could clear that cap space, they would do it in a heartbeat. The linebacker situation for both of these teams is really bad. So that's the studs and duds this week. Again, guys, please do hit that like button if you enjoyed. We'll be back with picks tomorrow, actually. First of the month picks for week 9 of the NFL. We were 13-1 last week, so hoping to keep that going. All right, peace out, everyone. We'll see you later.